this offseason. And look, we talked yesterday about Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. Teams are calling because the word is out that he doesn't want to be there anymore. The Eagles are still telling teams that call, hey, we're not interested in trading him. We expect him to be on this year's team. But teams continue to call because they believe the Eagles will ultimately have to change their mind or end up caving to whatever Carson Wentz wants in terms of getting out of town. So it's a situation around the league, even though the Eagles are still taking the stance that they don't want to move him, that teams are watching closely and not ruling out the possibility that they change their minds.
I mean, that is all of those are such fascinating situations as I bring the crew in here. Again, I call myself the Schefty Whisperer sometimes because I've known Adam Schefter 15 years. He doesn't just say stuff. So when he says on the radio show the other day, you know, my guess is Carson Wentz gets traded this offseason, that's not as much a guess when it comes from Schefty. So, Marcus Spears, what do we say about this? I think the general perception, the conventional wisdom has been there was a power struggle in Philly. Carson Wentz won it. They got rid of the coach. He's gotten kind of everything he wants, and he still wants out. What does this mean?
Gee, I'm absolutely disgusted with this situation, man, because, look, we talked about this ad nauseum, and when they decided to fire Doug Peterson, they chose Carson Wentz, and they brought in a coach for Carson Wentz, and now Carson Wentz won't out. I worry about Carson Wentz's mental strength with this game. Like this, the NFL is going to present challenges every time you get ready for a season, every time you play a game, every time you practice. And look, he played his way into this. I cannot stress that enough. It's not like the Philadelphia Eagles did anything to Carson Wentz. We watched him go out Sunday after Sunday, throw interception after interception, not have a lot of success until finally they had to go to Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts showed some promise. But even in that situation, it took them forever to make that decision because they wanted everything for Carson Wentz to work out. And now the fact that he wants to leave just tells me about Carson Wentz trying to get himself away. I don't know if it's Philly fans. I don't know if he still has an issue with the people in the building. Whatever it is, when a team has made all of these adjustments, Sirianni coming over, Frank Reich's guy, get you back to MVP level football, and then you decide you want out. I'm not sure if any other team wants to take that on unless Carson Wentz is telling everybody, if everything is not okay and we not in a great place, I'm going to have issues being here based on what we've seen transpire in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, the talent is so obviously there. And so we all know football people will look at that and every one of them will raise their hand and say, oh, I can fix that guy. I can fix that guy. But the cautionary flags are, as you were saying, are all over the place. Bart Scott, what do you think of this?
Well, for me, I see it differently, right? Because when that trust is broken and you don't believe in the organization, you don't feel like, they have your back, you want out. We see the same thing taking place in Houston. Deshaun Watson just signed a huge massive deal. He lost trust in the organization. You know what? He wants out. Philadelphia, went all in for the championship. They won the championship, and now they're grossly over the salary cap. They don't have a lot of draft equity. They don't have a lot of salary cap space to improve this football team. This is a football team that went all in to win the championship. I believe that Carson Wentz is still a great player, but he wants to take control of his narrative. And I think he really wants to have a reunion with Frank Reich, and he wants to go to Indianapolis. And for him to want that, and for him to be able to pull that move, we see athletes taking control of the narrative. I can't discourage or beat Carson Wentz down because he wants to change the scenery.
Marcus, you see it differently. I go ahead.
Man, listen, Deshaun Watson is dealing with ownership in Philadelphia. Ownership in Houston. You know what ownership just did for Carson Wentz in Philly? Surrounded him with all the stuff that he needs to have success. Like, the trust is broken. They fired the damn head coach because of him. They wanted to put him in the best. This is the part that I don't understand about what the level of thinking is. That's why I reference. I don't know if it's Philly fans. I don't know if he just needs a new environment. I don't know what it is. But to say trust is lost, they moved the whole offseason for him. We didn't see Houston do that. We saw Houston trade away DeAndre Hopkins. We saw Houston alienate Deshaun Watson from just the ability to put input into the coaching hire about a guy that is going to determine his future. You know what Philly did for Carson Wentz's future? They hired a guy closely connected to the guy he's had the most success with. Miss me with all of the Carson Wentz doesn't trust the front office and the man. They chose him this offseason, literally chose him, and also told Jalen Hurts, look, you did a good job, but we're going to build for Carson Wentz.
Go ahead, Bart. Final
But
quick.
we
I
know
got
that
15
Jalen
seconds.
Hurts, we know the elephant in the room. We
Yeah.
know the elephant in the room is Jalen Hurts. You're going to have a quarterback controversy. You're going to divide the locker room because if Carson Wentz struggles, then you know you're going to start hearing the calls for Jalen Hurts. You can't have two quarterbacks. You can't survive with a quarterback competition. This ain't Joe Montana, Steve Young. You got to get a guy out of there. You got to make a decisive decision.
I think you may be actually both saying similar things, but in very different ways. We will have much more on this as we go. It figures to be a story that carries well past the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, coming.
We see Derek Nandy, the defensive tackle. We got Sorensen and Snead on the outside. They use Nandy to take away a window from Josh Allen immediately. Allen head is that way. D tackle dropping. I'm going to close that window. If you look at Sorensen and Snead, they're closing. Kansas City defenders, eyes back. They see their guys. Where you going to go with the football, G? And now you have speed off the edge using skilled secondary level guys to get to the quarterback. Look, Josh Allen was one of the hardest sacks in the NFL this year because of his athleticism. We know damn well Tom ain't going to have no athleticism. So if you can get him to pull this football down, create some of those little nuanced looks. You don't live in that area against Tom Brady. He's seen it all. But every time you get a chance to add an extra guy in the coverage from an unforeseen place and get him to hitch and pull the ball down and take a half a second or an extra second to throw the football, you could get home and it could be huge plays for the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And let me remind everybody, right? Like this defense has raised their level of play now for 2 years in the playoffs. They figured out ways to make plays. Yeah, they may have given up yards. They may give up some big plays, but they create turnovers. They give this offense extra possessions, and that is all you need to do when you have Patrick Mahomes and the weapons they have on the other side. So Spags will be ready. He'll have his own pressure package set up. But to Boog's point, if Frank Clark and Chris Jones' name don't pop up all over this stat sheet, then they didn't get what they needed to get done, and we may be sitting here talking about the Bucs winning the Super Bowl.
And so, Bart, let me come to you, because you may have played in more big games against Tom Brady than practically any player ever, but those all came, of course, when he was playing for New England. How is it different now in this system and what he's doing with Bruce Arians in this offense? How is it different with Brady, and what are the keys to attacking this Tom Brady?
Well, I think really it's about, Tom Brady and his protection. We talk about it. We showed that Josh Allen was getting attacked. Josh Allen's a guy that hasn't been in a lot of wars. He doesn't understand how to see where the pressure is coming. I think when they went to the bye week, they figured out what the best personnel grouping was, and I think it's 12 personnel. And I think that's really what you brought Gronk in, not because you needed him to really make plays down the field, but you needed him to be that second tackle, that security blanket. You saw last week, he was blocking, then here comes the screen pass, a pivotal play in the game. I think they figured it out. So you make those edges a lot longer. So now you think about Chris Jones in the middle. Now you have an extra body that you can double him and not get instant pressure on Tom Brady. We think the elements are going to play a role in this game. Leonard Fournette running the ball downhill, no risky, no bisky, off play action, being able to take shots down the field. I think that's going to be the key, the personnel group, and I think 12 personnel is advantage Buccaneers.
To be clear, that's one back and two tight ends is 12 personnel, and then you try and run it with Fournette, and he's referencing whether there's a chance this will be a weather game. We've only had one Super Bowl that was played in heavy.
Spit that game.
Well, listen,
tell them what that personnel look like, G. That's what I'm talking
some
about.
of the terminology. Booger knows what it's like to play a Super Bowl in the rain. We'll talk about that as we go. But let me run the hurry up with Graziano here, because there's news and notes to get to, Dan, around the league. What can you tell us? Let's start with the Steelers and their conversations with Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay, Greeny, our Jeremy Fowler reporting yesterday that the Steelers are expected to meet with Ben Roethlisberger next week to discuss his contract situation. 1 year left. His cap number is $41.25 million. They have to do something to knock that down. Look, they can probably get something worked out, but it's not 100% that they do, and Ben Roethlisberger's back on the team this year. A situation worth watching. In Atlanta, team owner Arthur Blank saying that he expects quarterback Matt Ryan and wide receiver Julio Jones to be on the team in 2021 in spite of their large contracts and salaries. This makes sense. If you look at Ryan's number, almost the same as Roethlisberger's, right around $41 million against the cap, but that would actually go up if they trade